I think it was Winston Churchill that said, success is going between failure to failure with the same level of enthusiasm. In influencer marketing, you don't buy media space. You don't buy, banners on the website. You don't buy ads and things like that. You basically have a very creative collaboration with people. Usually the brands have a very large level of control over the message. They control everything on their billboards, on their copy, on their websites, on their Facebook ads, and so on and so forth, right? But there, they actually accept to surrender that control to influencers.
Welcome everyone to Prac Talks with VJCV. Today we have Vivien Garnes, the co-founder and co-CEO of Up-fluence, the leading influencer marketing platform. First of all, thank you for earmarking the time and getting on a call with me.
My pleasure.
Tell me about yourself. So you did your education from Scotland and then moved to France, right?
Actually, I did a double degree program between my French university, the Catholic University of Lyon, and the Edinburgh Napier University, which means I spent about 18 months in the UK out of the 5 years of my master's and the rest of the time in France, which was great to learn how to speak English. So that was very helpful for me. After that, I started to work in the first startup named Report Linker, which is a market intelligence startup. I had the marketing role there. In parallel to that job, I started an e-commerce business, which was a lot of fun, but which was very hard. And that's when I sort of got introduced to influencer marketing. And since 2012, I've been working on that Upfluence thing. And since 2013, it's been a real business. And in parallel to that, still on the topic of education, I started 2 years ago now doing a PhD program for a number of reasons that I won't necessarily get into now, but it's basically at the junction between data science and influencer marketing, so it's very relevant to my field, and yeah, it's been fun. And it's a joint program between two French universities, and technically one business school, which is Schema, in the south of France, and a local university, which is Lyon. So yeah, that's about my educational background.
Interesting. So you are increasing your knowledge day by day, and keeping yourself as a student throughout your journey. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Students of life.
Yeah. So you said that 10 years back, when you and your friend Kevin had started an e-commerce company, you had challenges of selling the products online. What was the product that you were selling, and what were the challenges that you faced during that time?
Sure. So this is going to be my moments of shame of the interview. So essentially, as I mentioned, I was working in a startup. I was working directly with founders, and their entrepreneurial drive and motivation was very contagious. So I wanted to do it myself as well, right? So at night and weekends, I thought, well, what can I know how to sell things online, because that's what I was doing every day, right? So I'm saying, I'm going to do that with a different line of products. I was selling B2B software. And I'm going to do that in a different line of product, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to make money, and life will be beautiful. And I was thinking, well, I'm going to go B2C because I want to learn new things, right? And in the B2C space, I was looking in different directions, and I was thinking, well, I don't want to have a big inventory because I'm not looking for real estate. I just want to work from home. Okay. So not a big inventory, not a product that requires too much, technical know-how, because I don't want to develop that kind of expertise, and something that's easily shippable to clients, right? And at the time, it was way before the age of dropshipping, right? So my question was, so if you draw a Venn diagram of the three things I just mentioned, that doesn't leave a whole lot of options. And I thought the best product to answer all three of these questions was the necktie, that you wear with a suit, which was, in hindsight, a horrible idea for a number of reasons. Number one, I had zero affinity with the product. I basically never wore a tie in my life, except on a couple of occasions. So I was not the greatest idea from that standpoint. Second standpoint, I didn't do enough market research, and turns out that I was not at all the first one in the market to have had that idea. It turns out the market was extremely fragmented, with a lot of small websites, e-commerce websites, just like myself, doing the exact same thing. And as a result, everything I knew about Google AdWords, Google AdSense, everything I knew about affiliate marketing, and so on and so forth, was not working at all. And that's when I had the oh shit moment saying, well, I have a box with 1,000 neckties sitting in my living room. That takes a lot of space, and I have no idea how to sell them. What the hell do I do, right?
Yes.
And so I tried some other options. I tried some B2B sales to sell, a more of a wholesale approach to companies. That didn't really work. I tried a bunch of things. And one thing that did work was to find bloggers, menswear bloggers on Google, to
Mhm.
send them a tie, to beg them essentially to write a review. The review would generate traffic. The traffic would turn into conversions. The customers would turn into repeat customers. And at the end of the day, that's how I managed to get rid of my 1,000 ties. At the end of which I just closed the business. But I learned a couple of lessons along the way. Lesson number one: the process was extremely time-consuming and tedious. I was literally spending my nights, on Google, manually searching bloggers, updating the spreadsheet, emailing them individually, following up a number of times. Like that was really tedious, number one. And number two, I made so many mistakes. When I thought a blogger was very influential, they would drive a lot of traffic, so I would pay money on top of the products I was sending, and turns out it was generating 27 visits and zero conversions, right? So I was just losing money on that one. And that's when I had sort of a realization, well, a lot of people could benefit from influencer marketing, and that was the very early days of it. But at the same time, it's such a long and complicated process, an obscure process, that it would be great if a technology tool could bring some clarity, some transparency to the industry, and also some scalability, because at the time it was absolutely not scalable. And that's when Kevin and I had the aha moment for Up-fluence, and we thought, well, we enjoyed working together on the Thai business. We might as well enjoy working together on an influencer marketing technology company. And that's when we started working on the project.
Great. So I'll just step one step back and start from the place where you said that your entry into the e-commerce segment was the moment of shame for you. But I would like to put it in the other way around, saying that it might be the moment of reckoning for you in terms of understanding that there is a lacuna or a gap which is available in the industry to cater to that, and then maybe that's what gave you the learning. I would not say failure, but it was more like a learning that you got from there to start the influencer marketing thing. And
absolutely, yeah, it's moments of reckoning. I like your formula on this. And yeah, of course. And at the end of the day,
yeah,
you haven't really failed. I think it was Winston Churchill that said, "Success is going between failure to failure with the same level of enthusiasm."
yeah.
And I'm very open and transparent about what I consider failures, but that again are just one step in the journey, right?
That's true.
The importance is the end, right? So phrase it however you want. I'm fine either way, but yeah, I like the reckoning moments as you phrased it.
You sort of started off this project in around 2012, and you came out actually with the you rolled out the project around 2013.
Yes.
Yes.
So the first product that we put to market was quite different from the product we have now.
Okay.
I don't know in which level of detail you want me to go. So actually, I completely hijacked the question. So sorry, go ahead, continue.
When you started off, whether it was similar to this, the SaaS model, or you just started off with a basic?
So good question. It started as a marketplace model. So it was very much a platform connecting, supply and demand.
Okay,
and
like
over
Uber?
time, yeah, very much like Uber. So it was a Uber for bloggers, essentially.
Okay.
That model didn't really work for us. We had great success on the influencer side. We had the technology that could identify very large volumes of influencers, so we're able to grow that side of the marketplace very early on, the supply side. On the advertiser side, I think the market was not quite ready. We had educational problem. We had a liquidity problem between the supply and demand. We didn't really manage to crack the code, and by 2014, we were running out of money. So we had to pivot. And what we did then was we sort of stopped being a marketplace, and we sort of became, how do I put this, a technology backed agency. So what we did is that we closed to the public the demand side of the marketplace, and we operated it ourselves instead. And we're not selling access to a product, we're selling basically our time. So we did that between 2014 to 2016. That was a very tough pivot for us to make. Number one, because we had zero sort of experience in the service industry. Number two,
so just to stop you between. So during that time, did you so actually you closed down the demand side and you kept only the supply side happening that time?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So very tough pivot for us, but in hindsight, that was a very good move because it taught us a number of things. Number one, we're in direct contact with the clients, so we learned a lot more about what they wanted and what they didn't want. We're in direct contact with influencers because we're doing the job ourselves, so we learned a ton on that side as well. On top of which, service is many things. Venture capitalists would say it's not scalable, so it's not as valuable as technology revenue, but at least on the short run, you can make a little money, and that way we're able to keep the lights on, which was great. B, we're able to keep hiring developers, hiring technology people, and that brought us to the very end of 2016, which is almost 3 years ago to this day, which is when we're able to take that technology and sell it as a SaaS, which is what we've been doing ever since for the last 3 years now.
Great, awesome. 8-year journey till now. How has been the journey so far?
I really struggle to answer that question in writing. It's what I assume is every entrepreneurial journey, one way or another, right? You have, I believe, as an entrepreneur, you have highlights and lowlights, just like everybody else. But I believe your lowlights are a lot lower and the highlights are a lot higher than any regular people. I would assume that. What I mean by that is we had our set of hardships where we're very close to running out of money. We had to pivot. We had to make very tough choices along the way, and that was very tough for us, as individuals, as people, tough as a business. But that was necessary. At the same time, we had a huge amount of success over these last 8 years. We're now 10 years, sorry, almost 8 years. Yeah. We're one of the leaders in the industry, so we came a very long way, and we're very happy about what we've done. And it's been an extremely rewarding experience. We get to work with people that we love. We get to work with very people that stimulate us and challenge us a lot, which is great. We're in a very hot industry. The landscape is moving very fast. It's very stimulating intellectually and so on and so forth. So yeah, obviously we had hardships, so I would be lying to say that we haven't, but we cherish these. And, to get back to our previous conversation about going from failures to failures, right? We really cherish this because every single hardship has brought a very valuable lesson for us, or we try to keep with ourselves. And at the same time, we had so much success that it's been very exhilarating.
Great. So since you spoke about hardships and you were into that e-commerce industry yourself from around 2010, and you struggled 2 years selling your product, the necktie, and then you started Up-fluence, and again you said that around by 2014 you almost ended up using all your funds, and then it's around 2016 that you actually came out with this current format of Up-fluence with the SaaS tech support stuff and things like that. So how did you survive? It's like, how did you manage yourself to keep going from 2010 to till the time you actually got this going?
Well, we've been, and I believe it's a very strong component in our DNA. We've always been very capital efficient. So some of them would probably call us cheap at this stage, but we've always been very conscious about the way we spend money and how we spend money, and making sure every investment that we're making yielded ROI that was, a return that was actionable and scalable, and so on and so forth. So between my first venture, it was very small capital, so that was only my own money. The second venture, Upfluence, we had invested a little bit, but we didn't raise any sort of capital until what essentially was 2018, which is when we raised our Series A. The rest of the time, it was mostly self-funded, right? So that's something I'm very proud of. It's how capital efficient we've managed to be historically, and we still are, even though we raise capital. Usually, you raise capital to burn money a little bit, right, to accelerate your growth, which we've done. But very quickly after that, we were able to reach back profitability and reach back, the cash flow equilibrium and so on and so forth. So that's something that's very important to me, and that's, I believe, a key component to the success that we've had historically.
Yeah, great. That's a great story. So now to come to Upfluence and the influence of marketing. For a basic layman who just know the word influencer marketing, how would you help him understand this particular space which has come up in the last say 8 to 9 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So influencer marketing is marketing, right? Marketing is putting your product to market. That's literally what the word means. But usually most marketing channels imply that the brand, so the one doing the marketing, markets their products directly to the consumers, right, to their target audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how most channels currently work. However, influencer marketing differs to that in one fashion specifically, is that the brand puts to market their product via a proxy. And that proxy is a social media user with some readership, with some following, with some influence at
Mm-hmm.
this scale.
True.
And it's very interesting in several fashions. Number one, the proxy, the influencer, will be able to appropriate himself the message of the brand, which is quite unheard of, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a key differentiation, um, in the sense that usually the brands have a very large level of control over the message. They control everything on their billboards, on their copy, on their websites, on their Facebook ads, and so on and so forth, right? But there, they actually accept to surrender that control to influencers. And that's been very good because the influencers know their audience specifically. They know what works, they know what doesn't, and they can reshape that message to their own image in a way that engage with their audiences. And what we see as a result of that is an incredible engagement created by the audience of the influencer. So I would say that's the key differentiation between traditional marketing and influencer marketing. Does that answer the question?
Oh yes, definitely. You are very precise to the point in terms of uh, giving a clear cut understanding in terms of what influencer marketing is all about. So influencer marketing, which I would put under the because everything is currently spoken as say sport tech or edu tech and things like that. So this would definitely come under something on martech this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yes.
or ad tech, which has been and ad tech itself, it's a completely different thing which has been happening over the last 2 to 3 years. Would you think that, or what is your stand in terms of, because there are a lot of things which have happened in the last 3 to 4 years, because there is a lot of talk about AI, machine learning, chatbots, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So does that actually help this particular space of for influencer marketing, or whether things would have been different if it was not there?
So yeah, great question. Um, so yeah, the space of martech in general has changed so much, and it's because of the tech component of it, right? Marketing, the mechanics are always quite the same. The objectives are always quite the same. However, the technology changes sort of the game, changes the skill, changing the how you do things. And you've quoted three very interesting things: the AI, the machine learning, and the chatbot, which I think all deserve one same purpose, which is automation.
Right.
The way I see it is that the last maybe 7 years of the MarTech industry have been all about automating a process that historically had been very manual and very long and very tedious as well. And how do we streamline that? How do we make the most? How do we make the brands we work for stand out, right? And AI, ML, and to name these, they serve the same purpose, which is how do we batch process simple tasks by basically a robot and intelligence that can process much more data points than any human can. So how do we take this to the same level, right? On top of which, the machine learning, the beauty of it is that it's very organic in the sense that the more data you can feed in, and that data arrives over time, the more conclusions you can draw, and the more consequence you can expect, sorry, from such model. So in that sense, that's super interesting. The chatbot, um, similar idea. How do we automate? How do we scale? However, in influencer marketing, some attempts have been made about chatbots. Some of them are not quite successful. What I mean by that is, in influencer marketing, you don't buy media space. You don't buy banners on the website. You don't buy ads and things like that. You basically have a very creative collaboration with people, and for that, the brand has actually to talk to influencers. They have to talk to people. Have to talk to people. So I would say that's one difference that influencer marketing has with other MarTech components, which is there still will be some creativity involved. There still will be some human to human relationship being involved as well. And as a consequence, it might not be as automated as others, but I believe it will also survive more, because at the end of the day, that's what marketing is, right? It's creativity and
That's
how
true.
you connect to people. So yeah, I hope I answered the question again.
Yes. So from taking from there in terms of AI and machine learning, uh,
Mhm.
I understand that you use the same AI and machine learning to rank the creators or the influencers on your platform also, right? So
So yeah, there's a lot of different uses of AI in machine learning. I can give you a couple, and I won't go into too much details, not
Oh
to
yes,
give away
yes,
some
yeah.
secret sauce. But
No worries.
essentially, one of the very big pain points on the market is how you discover influencers, how you identify influencers. Because advertisers have realized that it's one thing to work with Kim Kardashian, but it's actually more interesting to work with 1,000 people who have 10,000 followers, right? Because the aggregating engagement rates would be much greater than a very large influencer. So the challenge that the industry has tried to tackle is how do we scale that, and how do we make influencers identifiable? For that, there's a lot of data that's very easy to process. All text data, for instance, can be searchable with keywords, and that's something we've been doing for ever since the internet began. So that's very easy, but that's only a fraction of the information you can have about an influencer, right? A lot of it is image, a lot of it is video, and so on and so forth. So for us, our artificial intelligence and machine learnings are very useful for image recognition technology in a way that we can analyze a lot of influencer profiles and determine a lot of things thanks to their content. Does influencer has a dog? Yes, no. We've seen that on Instagram posts. They really have a French bulldog. That's great. Is the influencer a man or a woman? What's his ethnicity? What's his hair type? And as a result, should we recommend that influencer specifically for a certain type of cosmetic brands? And if so, what kind of product we should recommend, and so on and so forth. So just from one use case, which is image recognition, we can infer so much data and make all the influencer information a lot more actionable for the clients. And as a result, we can get a lot more value out of it because they spend less time, not they spend less time identifying and doing the heavy lifting themselves, and they can focus on the creativity and the human interaction with influencers.
Okay. Again, linking back to your the current answer, and
Mm-hmm.
and also looking at what you had gone through in terms of when you were at 2010 to 12 stage, when you were actually selling a products online, you were struggling to get the bloggers and finding out the who would be the right blogger to get you the
Mm-hmm.
uh, reach to your target segment of customers. Okay, from there to now, the current social media generation, wherein your Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and a lot of other your WhatsApp and the whole marketplace has changed drastically. And
Mm-hmm.
having said that, I am sure that even your influencer marketing depends on a lot of the presence on all this media as well. So, do you feel that the social media in general has helped the influencer marketing community?
So absolutely, unarguably, and a couple of things. Number one, it's very cyclic. Right? When we started with Up-fluence, it was all about blogs. A couple of years later, it was all about Facebook and Twitter. Now all the hype is about Instagram and YouTube. Tomorrow, and it's already started, it will be TikTok and whatever comes next. There's always this cycle where it's basically the law of offer and demand at play, right? At
Yes.
the beginning, when social media starts to get big, like TikTok is right now, there's a lot of users, there's a lot of offer. There's little demand because the advertisers have not yet applied the strategies that work on Instagram to TikTok, for example. They haven't adapted their message. They haven't really, they haven't done the legwork to really understand what TikTok is about. And as a result, if you're right now an advertiser on TikTok, you have a great opportunity to do business with influencers because they have very little solicitations from brands as of right now, as opposed to Instagram, where there's so many brand solicitations that the prices go up. And so there's always this sort of arbitrage that brands do, which is when do I move from one direction to the next, and how much split of my budget do I spend on Instagram, on TikTok, and so on and so forth. So has its social media helped? Inarguably, I believe it really scaled the volume of people. It was back in the day kind of complicated to open a blog, before all the CMSs made it easy. It's always been super easy to open an Instagram page or a Facebook fan page and so on and so forth. And my takeaway is that yes, it's a very good thing that new social networks come out of thin air every other year. That some of them have a huge traction, and I believe it's also a good thing that some of them don't belong to Facebook, in the sense that
Yeah.
it's good to keep the marketplace
Open.
competitive and
It
so on
should
and so
not be a
forth.
monopoly at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since we spoke about the cyclic change and the new platform coming up every 1 year or 2 year in the last,
Hmm.
so So, for an example, say if TikTok is now in the currently doing the rounds and it's coming up. So, from a user point of view, so that if I am looking for an influencer, and this is a new platform which has come up recently. So, I come to Upfluence and I ask for people who are influencers in TikTok. Okay.
Mhm.
So how does that work? It's like because the TikTok is a comparatively I'm just giving an example. It can be any new platform which is coming up. So it's a comparatively newer platform. You would have limited number of people who are actually using that in terms of the influencers who are using that. So would you suggest a new set of influencers, or you are looking at people who are already an influencer in Instagram or a Facebook and who has slowly moved into TikTok and here slowly gathering the influencer base there? So how does that work?
That's a fantastic question. What I would recommend to clients is that if you've been active in influencer marketing the past few years, if you've already have a legion of influencers on Instagram, let's say, that you've been working with, a good way to test the waters on TikTok would be to activate those Instagram influencers you work with who also have a TikTok channel, right? Because they know your brand, they know TikTok, evidently. So they would be a good way for you to test the waters and to try to move to the next platform. Once you've made a number of tests, once you see the engagement rates, what works, what doesn't, in that case, you can leverage these collaborations and this content in order to activate some influencers that might not have any other social media presence than TikTok. They're really specialists in that sense. Right? So I would say the second thing you said is the best way to start, but the first thing you say is the best way to scale and then to really keep
Okay.
engaging on that platform.
Okay. So since your CES 2020 is happening in Vegas currently this week, and there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of talk about bots and robots and a lot of other things coming up. So I just want to check in terms of another question. When we spoke about chatbots, right? And you were saying that chatbots still have limitations because there's brands would like to speak to a individual, or they would be happy interacting with a human in terms of influencer marketing. uh,
Mm-hmm.
so going forward, do you see that there will be an influencer marketer? Say, I get into influencer marketing. I got say around say 25K or 30K followers, and I'm doing good in my influencer marketing. Right, this thing, and then I come up with my own set of say 15 to 20 chatbots, and I activate my chatbots. So will that happen in the future? Saying that influencer marketer with say 10 chatbots, which will work exactly like him or something like that. Will that come up in the future?
So it's definitely a possibility. Um, I believe I'm going to zoom out to answer your question the best I can.
Mm.
Um, for any sort of marketing activation, you
Mhm.
have to maximize two different variables to
Yes.
maximize your output. Variable number one is trust. Variable number two is scale, I would say, right?
Yes.
I'm going to give you a couple of examples. If tomorrow my face is on the front page of the New York Times, this is the best sort of trust I can get, right? Because it's a very reliable source, with a very good reputation and so on and so forth. However, if the day after I call back the New York Times saying, "Oh, that was great. Can that please happen every day for the rest of my life?" They will say, "Well, no, because
Okay.
that's not how it works."
Yeah.
So trust is great, scale is little, and there's only so many New York Times in this world, right? At the other end
True.
of the spectrum, there's all the programmatic advertising, right? If with Upfluence I raise $1 billion tomorrow, I probably would be able to burn them in a week just on Google AdWords and programmatic, on retargeting, and so on and so forth, because the scale is so great. However, it's been proven that the click rates have been going down and down and down. So as a result, the trust is not as great as it used to be. The way I see influencer marketing is a combination of both these worlds. There's a lot of scale in the sense that there are literally millions of influencers out there. So even in a very niche topic, if you are a niche geography as well in a small country, or a language that's very seldom spoken and so on and so forth, you still will have sufficient volume of influencers for you to activate as a brand. So I would say it's obviously not as scalable as Google AdWords. That said, it's still reasonably scalable. That's item number one. Item number two is the trust, because you leverage the authority of the influencers you work with, the trust is much higher that your regular advertising campaign would be. So to answer your question, does chatbots or any other sort of bots have potential? The answer is obviously yes. I want to be on the right side of history, and there's a lot of things, of tedious things that need to be automated, need to be scaled if you want influencer marketing programs to keep growing in the future. That's absolutely true. That being said, I still believe that for any sort of successful campaign, for there to be trust, there will need to be some creativity. There will need to be some sort of communication. So can the process be streamlined? Absolutely, and that's what Upfluence does and works very hard on every day. Can it be automated completely? I do not believe so, or at least I do not see that happening in the near future.
Great. Okay, fine. So, final three questions. One, since you spoke about trust, there are cases wherein people have been like the media go loud in terms of people are using influencer marketing, and this is not the way to do it. If you read the last 2 weeks reports of the country doing a music festival and getting the influencers there, and it went completely in a different direction. So you mentioned trust. So trust plays a key role in terms of doing that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
So, yeah, sorry. Do you have more to your question?
Yeah. So how does Upfluence make sure that that trust factor is there with all your content
Yeah.
providers or the influencers on your platform?
Yeah. That's a great question. Two elements to that question. Number one, there's all the question about fraud, which I believe is very important to build trust, and I'll get more to that in a second. The second one is some degree of vetting your clients. In the case of the Fire Festival, if anything, it proves that influencer marketing works, right? Because thanks to these influencers, whether or not it was legit, it created a lot of awareness, a lot of sales, and so on and so forth, because the festival was booked very early. So it's very important that the technology tools like Upfluence, but all of my competitors as well, it's important that they endorse their role into vetting their clients, choosing where they work with. To quote Spider-Man's Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility, and I do believe there's a responsibility to shelter the public from frauds, from scams, from terrible drop shipping. Made in China products are sold for outrageous amounts of money, and so on and so forth. So that's the responsibilities of the platform, in my opinion. Number one. Number two, and that's still the responsibility of the platform, is how to provide the right KPIs. Because historically, most KPIs that have been being the reference on the market have been proven one way or another somewhat untrue. You can today for $7 you can buy 1,000 followers on Instagram. For a few dollars more, you can buy 1,000 engagements on Instagram, and so on and so forth. So it's important for the platforms to provide the tools to really analyze and do some proper fraud detection and fraud prevention. And just finishing on an opening note, and then I'm really going to have to run, is that there's one thing you cannot fake. It's the conversion. It's if your influencer sells your product as a brand, this is real, right? You know this is not fake engagement, fake followers, fake whatever. And I believe this is where the industry is going. The industry needs and is going closer to sales, closer to conversions. And I believe this is a great thing because this is the ultimate form of accountability, right? Either you deliver, either you sell, or you don't. And that's a very big binary thing. And I believe that will bring a lot of transparency to the industry. And again, I believe it's for the platforms like Upfluence and our competition to lead the way and to really be the white knights of the industry in that sense.
Great. So even it's like whenever I looked up for influencer marketing the last 1 week before talking to you, so in any of the platforms which I've checked, I could see Upfluence in the top 5, made hyper popular, change social bond, neo reach. Any of those were there, but I could see the constant brand which came up was Upfluence. So it's really good to know that and to talk to someone who is being behind that and putting together all the influencers in the market. And I hope you keep growing in that manner. And I like the way you put it, that you need to keep investing in the technology and you need to keep growing the people around you and make the market a better place. So I hope you keep doing that and keep Upfluence right up there in the influencer marketing segment. And it was great talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you for your time, Vijay. It was great to see your face, to hear your voice. Great questions. I can tell you did a lot of research on this, and that you have a good understanding of the industry. So that was a pleasure.